I went to Baghdad for the first time in January 2003. It was still Saddam's town, but everybody knew things were about to change. I was hooked on the place from day one. It was the people that got me.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you.
What is your name?
My name is Muhammad.
Your name is Mohammed. My name is Tara.
In March, the war started, and I got sucked into covering the conflict. It was kind of unavoidable. So everything that you just saw was shot from the balcony of my hotel room. The fighting lasted for about 20 minutes. I reported from Iraq for almost 2 years.
Wow, we've been stuck in traffic, and now there's basically these huge explosions going on.
There was one small problem, though. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more dangerous, it always did. As it got more risky, I continually raised the bar for what it would take to make me leave. Then the kidnapping of foreigners started. First I thought journalists would never be kidnapped, but they were. These 2 French reporters were held for 3 months. Then I reasoned, well, women would never be kidnapped. And then these 2 Italian aid workers were taken hostage. Finally, I left Iraq. But I couldn't forget the people there. I felt that the story of Iraqi life was getting lost, hidden behind a curtain of press conferences and car bombs. There had to be a way to keep telling the personal stories of Iraqis. I couldn't go, but my camera could. Now, all I needed was an Iraqi. The only person willing to take on the task was 22-year-old Khalid Jarrar. He was a university student studying engineering in Baghdad. He was the little brother of a friend of mine. He came to meet me in Amman, Jordan. My hopes were in his hands. He was bright and charming, but did he have what it takes? I needed to mold him into a cameraman so he could show me Baghdad through his eyes.
No, don't be silly.
Just be grown up.
This has to work. So training began. I had 4 days to train a guy who had never held a camera before.
What were you taking shots of today?
I made some small interviews with my neighbors just to see how it looks.
The learning curve was steep. Most cameramen working in war zones had years of experience. We had to cram that into a few days. The good thing was, he already knew the story. Khalid was a blogger. He'd been keeping an online diary about what was going on in his country since shortly after the war. He wrote it in English because he wanted the world to see his side of things. And people were interested. His blog got up to 1,000 hits a day.
2 years ago, I thought of myself as just a 20 years old Iraqi. Just having my own life, studying, going back home. And now I'm feeling like I should be doing something. I should be liberating the country. I should be telling the world what's happening. I feel that I'm responsible for putting everything in the picture for myself and for the world.
The desire to speak out runs in the family. Khalid's mother, Faiza, is also a blogger. She lives in Jordan now. She fled Baghdad a few months ago.
I decided to leave without telling my friends or my neighbors. It was something like inside decision. And when I left, when I come to Amman, I have no decision, a clear decision in my mind. I just want a vacation. This is what the first point. I want to have a rest. I want to be alone.
Here is a blog she wrote in Baghdad.
Who is killing us? Targeting us every day. Who is killing us? Wanting demise for us? Who is playing a game upon us? Enjoying the spilling of the Iraqi blood and their lives.
It was time for Khalid to return home.
Bye. سلمي على بغداد.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to cry. I don't want to make it, a horrible moment. I want to let him feel that everything is okay.
It's cold. 6:30 a.m. It's beautiful morning. Look, watch. Look.
I feel that, he's going to make something good for himself and for the Iraqis. So that is the point.
Where's your camera?
Where's your cameras? Hey, millions of things. Cameras and microphones, phone, tapes, batteries. We'll see how is it gonna work in Baghdad. All the lessons and training. Let's hope it's gonna work right. Inshallah.
The week that Khalid arrived home to Baghdad, there were strings of suicide bomb attacks on Iraqi police stations, which killed dozens, and the governor of Baghdad was assassinated. Faiza and I worried and waited in Jordan. Finally, his tapes arrived.
Please don't tell me that I'm out of focus. Please. Great. No electricity.
I had to hand it to him. It didn't look like most of the footage coming out of Iraq. But this, I realized, was his world.
Now it's 11 p.m. and the streets are dead empty.
Khalid was stuck in his house, alone, with little to no electricity. Sweet dreams.
So this is what you need to think of when you go to sleep. Did I put my pajamas on? Did I brush my teeth? Did I load my guns? This is how it works in Iraq, you know? You should keep your weapon close to you, loaded all the time. You never know what happens.
Since the occupation began, Baghdad has become an insanely dangerous city. Iraqis have had to take their security into their own hands. Every Iraqi household is allowed to have one machine gun.
This sense to feel that you're safe, it's not there anymore. I mean, before the war, we used to go out. I used to go out maybe at 3-4 a.m. just walk in the streets. It's very beautiful, very nice weather, and now it's crazy just to be out when it's dark.
The streets of Baghdad are also dangerous for coalition troops stationed there. Their convoys come under attack by insurgents all the time. One of the insurgents' favorite ways of attacking military convoys is with roadside bombs. An attack like this happened outside Khalid's house and blew out all of their windows. He went outside to look and wrote about what he saw in his blog.
I found the helmet of the American soldier covered with blood. A landmine exploded while an American convoy was passing through, and a few American soldiers were injured or killed, I don't know. But I found this helmet covered with blood. I kept it.
I felt bad for him. I felt that he's just another victim for the American administration, really, just like we are. I'm sure he has a girlfriend, a wife, a mother, people who love him, and people that he loves. No one deserves to be killed.
Khalid Jarrar was born in Saudi Arabia in 1982. His mother, Faiza, an Iraqi Shia, met his father, Azam, a Palestinian Sunni, when they were both students at Baghdad University. They were married and spent their honeymoon in Lebanon as volunteers helping rebuild the war-torn country. They had 3 sons, each born in a different country in the Middle East. They moved around because of their work as engineers. They finally settled back in Baghdad in 1991, before the first Gulf War. The family kept themselves away from politics, avoiding Saddam's regime. They lived a prosperous life surrounded by relatives in this house.
This is our house, our old house. This is where I lived for the last 6 or 7 years. I love this place. I have great memories, and I love the garden too.
In March 2003, this is the house where the Jarrars decided to spend the war. They wanted to stay together as a family in the city that they loved. Khalid was in the middle of university, along with his brother, Rad, who was finishing a master's in architecture, and the youngest, Majid, was a high school student. Their mother, Faiza, kept a diary throughout this time.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict.
This is the Jarrars' account of shock and awe.
The smell of war is all over the place. People running to collect food and other important things before hiding in their houses.
We made a safe room. We stored food.
In the first days, like all our windows and were crashed, and like the doors were broken because of like the waves of the bombings.
It was really intense in the first 2 or 3 days, and all of the family were like sitting in one of the rooms of the house.
We stayed there for like 20 days, like all of us sleeping in the same room. My mother had a like emotional breakdown with the beginning of the war. She used like to just sit in my room, and like she kept on like crying all the time.
My stomach hurts and I feel depressed. I cannot sleep neither during the night nor during the daytime.
Mom and Dad would take a Valium as soon as raid starts because it makes them very stressed. Me and Majd and Ra'ad would just make jokes about it, and laugh all the time. And wow, did you hear that one? This one was close, and then it's coming. Then it misses us and goes to another place. It was just like that.
The first place the coalition forces took in Baghdad was the airport. The Jarrars' house was close by.
The Iraqi police at that time were going around the area with loudspeakers and asking people to leave the area because it is under attack.
Like houses in the neighborhood started to like be bombed. There were like ambulances all over, and like people were just like running in the streets and screaming.
And then we said, okay, we'll go out.
We moved from the house. I left the notebook in the house, and I continued writing in another separated paper.
Why did you leave the book in the house?
Oh my God! Because it was a very bad situation and very dangerous, and we left the house with our own clothes, without passports, without money, without anything.
The thing that I still remember is the sound of bullets themselves, not like the sound of shooting bullets. It's like the sound of just like the bullets themselves going beside you without knowing where is the source of bullets.
So they fled to their uncle's house, which then also became a battleground.
Like my uncle's house is we thought that it would be in a safer place. Unfortunately, it was more dangerous.
During this time, they had no access to reliable news of how the war was progressing.
We went up to the roof to watch what's happening.
And then I noticed that there were like 5 tanks are coming back from the suburb side to the city.
And we thought it's an Iraqi tank because like the news were talking about Iraqi tanks withdrawing inside the city.
First, I told my brother that like Iraqi soldiers have like won the battle that were going south of Baghdad, and they're coming back like victorious.
Look at the tank. And the man said, "What's that?"
I looked again and I noticed that there was an American flag over the tank.
It was a shock.
Like, just like to see American tanks in the middle of your neighborhood, like with like 3 Bradleys, and they're going around. And they opened their hoods, and an American soldier came outside wearing a black glove, and he started saying, like, you know, waving his hands to people.
Civilians in the street took off their clothes, their shirts, took their underwear, and started to wave them at their white underwear so they can go to their houses in front of the American tanks.
And people like in that area were like, yay, like, you know, welcoming the American soldiers as they were the liberators. And I still remember that I cried that day.
The war was over, or so it seemed. The regime had fled. The Americans and their coalition were now in Baghdad, and the Iraqi people eagerly waited to see what they would bring. One of the things that happened was that now Iraqis could access the internet freely. The Jarrar family, with the exception of their father, started blogging. In this home video, we see 48-year-old Faiza going online for the first time. Faiza's blog became an instant virtual hit. The boys complained that their mother stopped cooking them dinner as she spent hour after hour online. One of her first blogs talked about the U.S. forces.
We say it's still early to judge them. Give them a chance, and we will see the truth with time. We will know if they were truthful or liars.
Who speaks English here?
The youngest brother, Majid, had his own hopes.
As teenagers, we had high hopes on Iraq under American governing as being a place that you can go and hang around in McDonald's or buy a Ford or wherever.
People were really happy. People were like celebrating their new era.
Throughout the summer of 2003, Rad and Khalid started working for foreign aid groups. Rad traveled all over the country, organizing volunteers to conduct a survey to find out how many civilians had been killed and injured during the invasion. He felt the mood of the people shift week by week.
After like 3 or 4 weeks, you started seeing like these faces of people going like, why didn't they fix the electricity yet? I mean, what's wrong? What's happening?
News reports from this time show the mounting problems.
Electricity, critical to rebuilding Iraq's economy, improving the quality of daily life, and winning the population's support. But according to a new report from the General Accounting Office, 13 of Iraq's 18 provinces have fewer hours of electrical service now than when Saddam Hussein was in power.
Every morning, about 100 men line up at Baghdad's Liberty Square. Plumbers, bricklayers, painters, waiting for a day's work.
From bad to worse.
The blast ripped apart the UN headquarters building, shredding any notion that Iraq is getting safer. Officials said a suicide bomber drove a truck crammed with explosives right up to the building.
We cried for them all, putting our hands over our open mouths in panic and amazement. What is happening to us?
That was 2003. Now it's January 2005. Khalid is out on the street at night for the first time with the camera. What you can't see is that he has an armed friend behind him at all times.
سابقا كان عندي عمل لما لا فاني قاعده بالبيت.
ليش؟
بسبب الوضع الامني. امان ماكو. ما نقدر نتنقل من مكان لمكان بسبب الارهاب والحوادث اللي تصير تفجيريه بكل مكان.
It's not that strange to see a dead man on the street. And if you ever happen to be close of any house that was bombed, then it's not that strange to see parts of human bodies on the ground.
Cheesecake. You can't live without cheesecake.
There are very few of life's simple pleasures left for the citizens of Baghdad these days. But there is one: food. People in Iraq do what we all do under stress: eat.
These squares are great. They're called square, and they're like a bomb of calories. If you're on diet, this is the wrong thing to eat. Wrong. Can you get the helicopters? My God, my God. When the National Guard or the American Army makes a checkpoint, half of the times they don't even check cars or people. They actually just create traffic jam, horrible traffic jam everywhere. But who can question them? I mean, we're just Iraqis, bad people, you know? They have the right to do anything and everything here. Okay, this is the airport street. Here we go.
You might have heard of Baghdad's airport road, aka the most dangerous road on earth. With Baghdad Airport now a coalition military base, the airport road is in constant use by American convoys, making the road an irresistible target for insurgents.
Can you see? It's like a desert here. Just to be a green area. The American army actually cut all the trees and burned most of what was planted here to prevent anyone from hiding inside them.
The Jarrars live just off the airport road. The battle has come to their front door.
This hole is caused by the lined mine in front of our house. Now, people filled them with things so no one can fall in them, you know? See? This is my leg, and this is the hole. Whoa!
The lack of security is making people nostalgic for the bad old days, when you knew who the enemy was.
Yes. All broken glass. We thought that, living under Saddam's regime was the worst thing in the world at that time. But even the people that hate Saddam and his regime the most, like us and our friends, now we say, oh, there were good times, you know. Step. Another step, great. And we're home. Finally, candles.
Khalid's house. No gas, no electricity. Another day in Khalid's world.
Life is getting really boring here. I mean, you can't do anything. Even if you have electricity, what can you do? Where can you go? It's not that we don't have electricity only, we don't have water too. I discovered the reason why we don't have electricity. When you're sitting alone in the darkness and there's nothing to do, you think. So it's just very creative way the government invented to make people think and think and think to solve the problems of the nation, you know? That's the real reason.
I missed my lovely Baghdad. I left Baghdad since 10 days or more. Our hearts are with Iraq and Iraqis. Yes, we all wish and wait to see peace, stability, dignity in Iraq. My love and regards to Iraq and Iraqis at any time and from anywhere. Faiza.
I miss the house. I miss my friends. I miss my life. I miss my family. I miss everything, you know. I miss the furniture, the carpets, the pictures, everything.
You know why they put that fence? To prevent people from throwing bombs on the airport street while the American cars go from here.
The airport road can't be controlled by the coalition forces, and the city can't be controlled by the police. Coming home from work, Faiza had stepped out of her car to open the gates to her house when 4 armed men stopped her.
Mom was carjacked right here. They were that polite. They didn't kill her.
I have the thought that they will kill me in this moment. So I put my back on the wall. There's a small wall in the door. And I close my eyes and say, yeah, this is the end. Yeah, I imagine it's, I think I was dead. But then I opened my eyes, they were standing. But one of them entered my car and closed the door. I go, oh my God. So they're coming to take the car. For me, it's okay.
Born and raised in Baghdad, Faiza came from an old and prominent Shia religious family. She's about as Iraqi as you can get. Her heart was in Baghdad, but after the carjacking, she'd had enough. She left her husband in charge of their business and came to Jordan. She hopes her time in exile will not be in vain.
This is my book. This is the best one. This is a very good writer. He has a lot of books. You know, it is about the conflict, post-conflict societies, or rebuilt societies after war.
In Jordan, engineer Faiza is reinventing herself, studying all she can in the hopes of returning to Iraq to start an organization for women.
I have no joy in my life. You know, the program of my life is going out to the library to get more books, or to go to the institute to get more English lessons, or to check the links about women's study. This is all my day. Even I can't talk to the neighbor. I have no mood to talk and laugh and make relations with people.
Faiza was far from the only Iraqi in Amman. They were everywhere. There were about 500,000 other Iraqi exiles in Jordan, waiting. Rad had already moved there and was finishing his studies.
Most of my friends are here now. Most of my friends from Iraq are here now. Most of my family in Iraq are here now. My aunts and my uncles and my cousins and our neighbors and like the guard of the building and the man who was like fixing my dad's computers and like the maid that used to come to our house. All of them are in Amman because Iraq is not a safe country to live in anymore.
height of this violence, Iraq was preparing to have its first democratic elections. In Amman, Faiza, famous because of her blog, was called upon by the media.
Headphones?
Along with her son Rod.
Thank you. Headphones.
They explained why they would not be voting in the elections.
Weblogs have been spreading like wildfire, where so-called bloggers maintain diaries on their own websites. Faiza and Khalid Jarrar from Baghdad both have their own blogs.
We feel that a part of Iraqis will not participate in some way, maybe for Sunni or other people. So we feel that there is a little bit of absence of justice in the operation.
I'm totally against all of this exaggeration in marketing these elections as if they were the happening or like the peak of the liberation of the Iraqi people. I'm sure that this is a small part of what should be happening in the country, but it's totally out of context. It will be abused and it will bring a non-representative government in Iraq.
There were fears that the election would bring even more violence.
I don't feel safe going out shooting in the streets in these days in Baghdad. You don't want to draw attention at all. You don't know who's gonna attack you.
What are you doing? I'm trying to call Khalid in Baghdad. Are you worried about him?
Yeah, most of the time. You know, because the bad situation, you have to check him all the time. Is he okay or not? I'm telling my heart, I want to hear his voice. When he said hello, Ma, I said, oh my God, that's enough.
She had reason to be worried. Khalid was out on the streets of Baghdad.
We're in the street now. I saw some signs for the elections. I'm gonna show it to you. Give only the number of the list that they want people to write in the voting card. Can you hear the bullet? Something's happening here, close to me. There was very close shooting from heavy machine gun. We call it Bakata, which is the machine gun that is usually installed on the top of the Humvee vehicle.
نفس رأي زوجي لأن يعني ما تحس اكو فد شيء يشجعك على الانتخابات.
ايه اللي تنتخبين ان شاء الله؟
انتخب على مود المي بس اريد مي مي بس المي اريده كل شيء ما اريد. تحملنا كهرباء ماكو قلنا ما يخالف بنزين ماكو ما يخالف غاز ماكو ما يخالف بس مي بقى بس الهواء راح ينقطع.
January 30th, 2005. Election day in Iraq. Baghdad was on lockdown. No traffic was allowed on the streets, and the airport and borders were closed. Khalid blogged about why he didn't agree with these elections.
I do believe that elections should be held in Iraq, but the way it's being done right now is just wrong. I'm afraid that the elections will be the bullet that kills the national unity.
In Amman, Faiza went to a polling station.
I don't know, Michael. Lot of names, lot of parties, lot of lists.
She felt that she didn't have enough information about who the candidates were and what they stood for. This was the first time that anyone had seen the thousands of names of the candidates running in these elections. Their names were kept secret until voting day for reasons of security. I asked her, now that she had seen the list, would she change her mind and vote?
No, it is, it is confusing. If you are going to vote, you must have a decision. So how could you enter and you are confused? It is not it is not a game. It's something serious.
While many residents say they'll brave the violence, others say they're scared of being attacked at the polling station or afterwards.
Khalid watched the election on TV at home.
The people have told us that they are thrilled, that they're happy, that this is a new day. Many of the people that we talked to at the one polling station we went to told us that they felt like they were being, quote, reborn, that this was a special, special day. And many people even brought their children to watch this.
The elections have come and gone, and the problems still remain.
Good morning. Inside one of the refugee camps where the families of Fallujah have been here in Baghdad for the last few months. I'm going to show you around.
Back in November 2004, the coalition launched a huge battle to take control of Fallujah, which was in insurgent hands. Because of the fighting, about 200,000 people fled the city. They went where they could.
فلج الدور كلها الفلوجة صايرة ما تقدر تعيش بها لا ماء لا كهرباء لا
زين وهنا وين ساكن؟
هذا خالتي
وين راويني؟
This mosque in Baghdad has become home to 1,000 refugees from Fallujah.
صاحب محل بالفلوجة مو لا لهم شغلة بالجهاد ولا لهم شغلة الناس قاعدة ببيوتها آمنة تحمي بيوتها اللي يخافون راح يصير أعمال سرقة فوقعت البيوت عليها من ضمن اللي استشهد رجل عمره ما يقارب 82-83 سنة ماخذ بنت عمتي يعني متزوج بنت عمتي.
We're inside the mosque now. This is a place where people are supposed to pray, but it's cut into partitions and the families live inside now.
No one else has ever filmed in here before. They are suspicious of the Western media, but Khalid was allowed in because he knows the sheikh in charge of the camp. Like many Baghdadis, Khalid donated money to feed and clothe the refugees. But his family wanted to do more and realized their blogs could help.
The 4 blogs of ours had a relatively high numbers of visitors from all over the world.
They started a fund over the internet, asking for donations. Readers around the world responded.
So people started contributing and we collected around, I think around $20,000.
Despite everything that has happened, the insurgency continues. New groups claiming that they want to fight the coalition and anyone working with them seem to spring up weekly. Raad feels that a moderate secular Muslim like himself has no place in the new Iraq.
It's like the war of extremists, like from both sides. The war of the extremist occupying administrations and the extremist, maybe religious people from the other side trying to be reactionary to the war. And people like me are like lost in the middle or marginalized in a way or another.
This is the last family photo taken of the Jarrars together. The war has broken up their family. Majid is studying in Canada and doesn't know when he'll be back. Raad is an architect in Amman, Jordan, and wants to immigrate. Their father, Azam, holds the business together and travels often. Faiza remains in Jordan.
I remember my mother, God bless her soul. When she used to come and visit me, and we would buy these vegetables from the market. She would smile and tell me, "Look at Iraq, how much riches it has." I used to smile, taking her words as exaggeration, but today I remember her words with tears in my eyes. I discovered that I have inherited from her and from my father. Yeah. I discovered that I have inherited from her and from my father the love of Iraq and its land, and that I passed on this love to my sons.
Explosions, explosions, explosions. Explosions, explosions. Explosions, explosions.
But Baghdad has become an incredibly difficult place to live now. What is it that keeps you there?
True. But, you know, it doesn't work that way. It's like when you love someone and he gets sick, you don't go, "Oh, okay, he's sick, I'm leaving." You know, it doesn't work this way. It's your city, it's a place you love. It's where I grew up, it's where I learned everything. It's where every nice memory in my head is in that place.
I'm dreaming about that day. When could I go back to Baghdad? But not this Faiza. I want another Faiza.
Khalid heads to the mosque for Friday prayers.
This is a very small mosque beside our house. It's very close to me, that's why I came here. It's very early, you know, I can't go far away from where I live.
He's a regular at the mosque. This is his other family.
You get millions of kisses in these occasions.
But at night, he goes back to his empty house. His future, like Iraq's, remains uncertain.
I hate guns. Everyone hates guns. I hope I never have to use them, but they're necessary. Since I got this gun, I keep it beside me in my left hand all the time, and the AK is behind me, loaded too. You never know when you need them, really. You gotta be ready. Can you hear the helicopters?